Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our May 11th DEI Committee Meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a call to order. Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
of the United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
liberty and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
All right. So the first order of business will be to take a look at the minutes from our last meeting, which was so long ago, 2 months. So we'll just take a second to review that, and we'll wait for a motion to pass the minutes. Folks have had a chance to look at it.
Matt, are you able to post it?
Yes, I put it in. Hope that link works. That's the link to the one we got in email. So we're waiting on a motion to approve the minutes. FEMA, seconded by Mike. All right. So the minutes are approved.
I have a question.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Is that the same meeting where you talked about the trip overseas?
I did mention that, yes.
Okay,
Yes, so that's in point 2 of DEI in action.
right. That was an interesting story. It's too bad it's not in the minutes.
It is.
It is?
Yes.
Not right there where the, oh, okay, not, okay. I was just looking at the part about, I forget where it talked about the feminist club and that was, I thought it was all together there where you talked about that.
Yeah, in the DEI in action section, and then it's the second point.
Oh, okay, never mind, sorry, I just forgot, yeah.
No problem, that happens. So the next order of business is the reports from our subcommittees, which I have a good word, most have not been able to meet, is my understanding, yet, just in that brief window. So I know communications hasn't met in that brief window that's coming up tomorrow, and community engagement did end up meeting, so I can share out the report from that. The meeting was another really, really good one, and we focused most of our attention during it on engagement with PTAs. And so we were able to get our first reports back from members who were able to attend. Now, we do understand that there's going to be a transition, and a lot of these are going to turn over with families moving from the elementary level to FMS to the high school. Even members on our engagement committee are transitioning in terms of what level that they, their children and their families are in. But we did hear back from what happened with FMS and with Pine Bush. And so we're able to start making those connections, which is something that I think all of us are really, really proud of. And it's something that we all see as becoming an important staple for the engagement committee. That's the best way to be able to really reach out to the community and make sure that we're just present. And we talked a lot about visibility. And even if it's not a matter of going into a long diatribe, that there are some things where we want to be able to have an introductory statement and just say, here's why we're here, here's what DEI means, and be able to address some of those misconceptions that I think end up circulating, that really DEI is about making sure that students and our broader community, for that matter, are safe and protected and are able to have their dignity. And so that's kind of really what we want to look into. And we also started to think about what are some local community partnerships that we might be able to get, businesses that are on the forefront of this. And so we looked at a list of different places that we'll end up spending more time in moving forward. Now, I believe that was the only committee that was able to meet, correct? I know that, Nicole, yes.
coming. Sorry. I apologize for not being able to attend that meeting too. They're so good. But one thing I was thinking about as proposing another way to be visible in the community is looking at different maybe library associations and going to the different. I'm going to Guilderland Library or Altamont. There's boards there. Lots of people from the community go to the libraries, maybe holding some types of informational sessions there to not only just be in the schools, which is fabulous and what we want to get to, but to reach the community at a broader level. I know that there could be opportunity there.
I really like that idea. I think that's fantastic. That's definitely a strand that we can add, and we can definitely make sure that that's brought back to the engagement subcommittee too. So that folks can start to reach out in that avenue. And honestly, any other ideas that people have too, those are definitely welcome. Yes, Mike Laster. So
Maybe this is engagement and communications, but there's people on the screen who have an affiliation with the Guilderland Public Library. I'm a member of the foundation board on the GPL. So if this committee would like me to bring it up there, I do have the ear of the director of the library at those meetings. Not to steal any thunder from Dr. Wiles, but
I was going to say I have the closer ear.
I know, but you're busy. So if I can bring it up at the next foundation meeting, if everybody likes, and see if there's any opportunities with the GPL, if that's something that this group wants.
I think that's fantastic. Yeah, Dr. Rivera.
I think that's a great idea, and I don't mean to jump the gun, Elizabeth. I know you and I briefly talked about it, but Matt, since you brought it up in your subcommittee meeting, just the idea of talking about what DEI is, because I think there's like a misconception of that it's a program that just kind of started in the school, but it's been work that's been there for some time. And so, if you're not like on this committee, or if you're not doing this regularly, then it might just be something you're not familiar with. So I really like that idea of how you want to engage the community to share. Remember, I don't know, the beginning of this committee took so long to even define what DEI is. And I know other organizations and schools, universities have the same kind of, face the same kind of issues when working on that. So I think that's a great idea. I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Elizabeth, but since it seemed like the appropriate time.
Yeah, I think it would be great if we could come up with something that I don't know how, whether the communications subcommittee would do it or what, but if we could sort of look back over these 2 years and say, okay, so this is what we've tried to do. This is the need that we see. This is where we hope to go. Kind of like a reflection on what's happening. And because I know there are a lot of people that, are really well informed, but who still would struggle to explain to anybody what is DEI and what is it all about? What is it trying to do? So then you have a lot of voices jumping in from all over the place saying, well, it's CRT and they're trying to make, kids feel bad and stuff like that, which is not at all how we think of this whole thing. So, we need a voice out there that is trying to explain what it is and, what we're trying to do. That it's not this program that we pull out of a satchel and just insert into the curriculum. I mean, the curriculum is a really flexible thing, and trying to tell history from multiple perspectives is an ongoing process, and it's not something that we're just inserting into the curriculum. It is the curriculum. There's so much flexibility in the curriculum. So you got to teach about the Civil War. Well, it's not decided what exactly you have to teach. So, maybe people don't even know that. I mean, we could put in examples of, like Seema and I were saying earlier, like some examples of what we're talking about with the curriculum, so that, it's not this boogeyman, that some people are making it out to be.
Just speaking from the lens of social studies, one of the things that I really like about the standards is that there's a lot of different ways that you can tackle and approach different topics. And obviously I know, Lori, this too, from the long time and just the progression of things. It really is expansive, and there is so much in there, and there are so many different inroads. where, especially with right now, the framework that exists, it's designed to be able to support critical thinking and analysis, which is really a valuable skill, I think, for all of our kids to have. And I think that's something everyone can agree on. Yeah. So absolutely, Nicole, absolutely. And to that end, about the communication part and sharing with the community, this is something where it takes time. I know I can speak to just the engagement subcommittee. For the first 3 months of this year, that was really like, how do we even talk about this? And that was something where we went through that, not in practice, but like it was a very real thing, and it's transformed the way that I think those meetings even look and feel. Yeah, Gloria.
I think communicating with the public is an outstanding idea. I think the more we bring people in and the more we are open, I mean, we got these meetings on, you know, people can watch them, but the more we keep getting ourselves out there, talking to people, being just welcoming, having maybe a coffee or something, and then presenting, you know, a half hour, you know, little talk on what is DEI so that they go away with the factual information, the correct, you know, the truth. I think that can go so far to building bridges. And then when we are ready to make any sort of decisions or whatever, we will have the support behind us. I like that. I also chair the communications committee for the Board of Ed. And I've been thinking about coming back or talking with the committee more broadly about curriculum and how do we communicate to the community about curriculum. Because it seems like a big black box to people out there. They have no idea. I mean, if they looked on the website for New York State, they would just be lost. But to put it down in simple terms, you know, straight language, take a curriculum area and maybe a board meeting, just do something with that. But you know, with the DEI work, I think that would be a critical avenue for communications through that committee. So that's another avenue we can pursue.
Thank you. I totally agree. I see a lot of inroads too. So even going back to what you said, Mike, last year about, you know, partnering with the library, I think this is a communications thing as much as it is engagement. And so, yeah, there's a lot of intersection here. Did anyone else have any thoughts about this they wanted to bring forward, either to share amongst us or to bring back to the engagement subcommittee? Elizabeth?
So I think based on something Gloria was saying, reminded me that I keep hearing from people that this idea that we should get back to the basics of the curriculum, like reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I mean, there's, you know, so anyway, I just think that we might need to explain a little bit to people about what the curriculum actually is. That, you know, we're never going to go to a model where students are just memorizing facts and spitting them out. That's not our goal, you know, and what the curriculum actually looks like. I think we could explain it in like a few minutes, what the framework looks like, that there's so much flexibility. So everything the teacher brings to it is, you know, there's just, anyway, I already said that, but, you know, explaining a little bit about what the curriculum really looks like would be helpful, I think, so that we could kind of dispel that idea that we've wandered away from the true curriculum and now we're in some namby-pamby zone of, you know, teaching all this unnecessary stuff. I mean, you know, so yeah.
Mike?
Along with that point, Elizabeth, I think we have an opportunity to clarify some of the things that we don't have flexibility with. Right? So we are required by New York State Education Department to teach certain things. So I think if we're going to talk about the flexibility in the curriculum, we also need to talk about, you know, listen, this is not us. This is not a local decision. This is something we have to do. So I think clarifying that is just as important as your point. So it just has to be balanced. That's it.
Definitely agreed. Does anyone else have any thoughts that they would like to share? Okay. As I mentioned, all of the other subcommittee meetings, they are forthcoming very soon, you know, the next week and a half or so, but It was just because of the proximity of our two meetings that most groups weren't able to meet. So that leads us then to the next point in our agenda. And we're gonna look at DEI in action. So the main thing that I wanna focus on is just an upcoming thing, and I wanna make sure that people in the community are aware that it's happening, that members of this committee are aware that it's happening. I've said the date and time before, but again, May 26th, and we're looking at around 3:30 p.m. FMS already sent communication home to families about this, and already was able to secure some transportation to get some middle schools up there. But some student leaders in the high school, all of which are committee members, committee members are part of that group, not the other way around. They are planning and doing some really, really fantastic work, and it would really mean a lot, I think, if as many of us as possible were able to be there. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend, invite someone who would love to be there, invite someone who you think might be a little bit mystified about what this work is, to come and hear from students. One group that I know that every single member of this community really believes in and wants to see succeed. So if we're talking student-centered, it doesn't really get much more student-centered than what you're going to see May 26th, Thursday the 26th at 3:30. That's correct. And rather than add other items in, I really want that to be the focus, even just reflected for the minutes purposes. Do any of the students who are part of that want to say anything? You don't have to, but I just wanted to give space if you wanted to add anything about it, plugs or concerns.
That sounds good. Thank you, Mr. P. We'd love to see you guys there.
Okay, perfect. So again, Thursday, the 26th, 3:30, bring a friend, bring 5, and maybe bring a water bottle. So the crux of this meeting, oh yes, Mike Laster.
Logistically, rain date or no?
Yes. Students, you want to go into that, or do you want me to answer that?
I can't remember it off of the top of my head, so you can go if you remember
Would you
it.
just move it inside that day, or are you gonna just reschedule it?
The original plan was, with the rain date being the 27th, so the day afterwards, because of it was a rain and also snow date. If we had too many snow days, that would have been the contingent day. So that is still kind of the backup, but we can. I'll just make sure that the rest of the group is still on board with that, and then I can communicate that out to folks as well.
Okay.
Right, and that's part of the challenge. Without spoiling, but yeah, some of the activities are outside dependent. All right. So the crux of what we're going to dive into today is really the learning component and finishing up our book study, 5 practices for equity-focused school leadership. So I'd like to begin our learning component today just by reading 2 different excerpts to frame our thinking before we go into the questions and the discussions that are going to follow. So on page 160, one of the things that we are doing and that we're moving towards, and this body is recommended to the board, the way that we want to do the equity audit. The bottom of page 160, the section is what is an equity audit. And so I think that is very, very implicitly tied to the work that this committee has done. Even though it's not the full equity audit, but a lot of the work we're doing in terms of the reflection, the conversations, the look at curriculum. So there's a lot of different things that are happening. So here's what it is and what it is not. Equity audits are a key tool used to inform equity-focused change. By systematically collecting and examining data, you can more accurately understand and assess how various policies, practices, decisions, and context affects different groups of students. Although an equity audit is a vital needs assessment and overall planning to advance equity, it is not an end goal. Instead, its purpose is to provide a detailed and comprehensive picture of your system as a whole, emphasizing the experience of historically underserved or underrepresented populations. It will help you see where there are gaps and where there is greater equity, so that you can plan accurately and effectively to 1, improve services and conditions for underserved students, and 2, increase the overall equity consciousness and equity commitment across your system. So that I just want to be kind of the backdrop of how we're thinking about things going today. So, beyond just an equity audit, that's really what I think we here are doing, trying to make sure that we can better serve all students in accordance with our mission statement. Now on page 172, the second bullet down just reads that an equity leader's learning is never complete. If you never feel dissonance in your equity learning, you may be protecting your personal paradigms. And so while that part is tough, I want that to be something that we kind of sit on. So our work is never complete, and if we don't feel that dissonance, then we may be protecting our own personal paradigms. So the first part of our discussion and the question that I want to pose to the group, it's on page 198, and we'll look at that first bullet. And so we can think about this for, I know members have been on for different lengths of time, but really looking at this now, a year and a half over that into it, how are you thinking about yourself as an equity leader now, after engaging with the book and this work? What is different now compared with when you began, and what is the same? Mike and then Leah.
As a building leader, I think within the last 5 to 10 years, the questions, reflections, and efforts that I have tried to do have changed. My awareness has increased. There are different things that I have my eye on now that 10 years ago I did not have my eye on. And frankly, I feel bad that 10 years ago I did not have my eye on those things. So I think the increasing awareness, the research, the learning that I have done as a member of the leadership team at the Gilliland School District, as well as on this committee, has, I think, strengthened my toolkit as a building leader. So for sure.
Thank you. Leah?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I think for me, the biggest learning has been a reminder that good intentions are not enough. Wanting to make change or wanting the best for everyone, you have to be ready to listen more than to talk, which was an important lesson for me, especially in reading about coming from a deficit mindset to a mindset of everyone bringing something to the table. I think, unfortunately, what is a bit the same and shown more in sharp relief to me in the last couple of months is I'm not sure everybody came to this committee with the goals in mind of really advancing DE&I. And I really hope that we can do that public education that Gloria was talking about and take the boogeyman out of this to the community and really be committed to that as a group.
Thank you. Gloria?
I think for me, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like a different, it's a paradigm change about what the word empathy means. I consider myself an empathetic person. So, I think, yes, people should all be treated equally. Those are my thinkings in my head. I accept that everybody's equal. But now it comes from a much more emotional place, that empathy. It moves me somehow. It's not like a head thing anymore where, yes, of course, everybody's equal. Everybody should have these things. Now it's coming from a different place. And it's I don't know how to explain it, but it's an emotional reaction now, much more than just a head thing. And that's because even though it's amazing, even though here we are on Zoom, I just feel so connected to people's stories that where I never had that opportunity before. I mean, even though, I said, I grew up in Brooklyn, I grew up in, neighborhoods that had everybody kind of lived together. It's nothing like this. It's understanding at a deeper level other people's walks and what they're dealing with. it's a powerful change in your life. And Mike, you've had how many years? I've been living that other life for a lot longer than you. So this for me is a huge gift to receive this from everybody.
Thank you. Seema?
Hi, so I was just thinking about, I think about equity leader in terms of like a district altogether, and think about how, I think first, I think we are a leader in some ways more than I would have expected, and I'm just really proud of the district. I'm really proud of how this committee's come together. I know it took some time to really get going and find our footing, but in some ways, I guess the difference is I have so much more hope than what I initially thought, and so that is really great. And it's a reminder that there are a lot of good people in our community, and I think that although it's a dynamic process, it's always going to be changing with this work. I think that in some ways I look around other districts and I think that we are leading in some of this, which is awesome. And I don't always see that. So I'm really, in some ways, I think of our district in some ways as an equity leader. So that's really cool. And what's the same, I guess it's one of those things, but it's, the more we learn, the more we realize I don't know as well. I think that's just never going to change. So I think some of this is, you can't drag people along. People have to be ready to want to learn a bit. And so everybody might come to that at a different time. But I think, if we're on this committee doing this work, we have to be open-minded, accepting that other people might be joining at different times and becoming interested. So that wasn't very well put, but it's just my thoughts.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Chris?
I don't plan to be all that eloquent either. I think thinking about the difference of being an equity leader, I've always shied away from the word leader. And positivity project, that is my lowest quality. But if you're not willing to be a leader, I think I've been thinking about, do I deserve to be on a committee if I'm not willing to step forward? And now I find more and more of my colleagues coming to me with questions about equity, more than just the LGBTQ questions that I always get, other areas of equity, and being willing to step forward. And what I've learned, similarly to Gloria, is that there's a much more emotional take on this now, and being, more driven to use energy in this direction, whether that's supporting my female students in some of the situations that they're finding themselves in, supporting students of various different marginalized populations, and recognizing that I have empathy for that, but I can't always walk in their shoes because of our different experiences.
Thank you. And that actually is a really, really good springboard to the next question that I wanted to ask everyone. Towards the top of page 199, I want to ask what stands out as the most challenging moment of learning. And I think this one, to be fair, I can definitely speak into this. I think one of the things that is tough is realizing that as much as we learn, and someone mentioned earlier, as great as our intentions might be, I believe it was Julia, that that alone isn't enough. And that we can read and talk to a wide range of people all day, and there will still be things that we don't know. And so I think for me, it was getting to a spot where I was able to see that even in my best intentions, there's always going to be some part of a story that I'm not hearing. And it's hard for me to accept that there's going to be something that I'm not going to, no matter how hard I work, I'm not going to be able to know everything in that space or in that conversation or in that interaction. And that's something that I still grapple with that. But at the same time, it's inspiring for me to keep going on this journey, because I know that there's still more to go, and there will always be more to go.
Oh, sorry, I put my hand up.
No, it's okay. It's
Put
okay.
my hand up.
As when you teach me, just make it awkward.
I think I can speak for a lot of people my age and older on the call and around my age that for me, the humbling moment was, I think I really came to the committee like, well, I'm Black and I'm gonna be the voice of the minorities and I'm relatively young and I know what I'm talking about, and really just getting blown away by the students and realizing I had so much to learn and so much to catch up on and I had to get so much better at saying hard things. Like the students really humbled me many times in the last 2 years for the better.
Thank you. Maxine?
As much as you may have learned from me, I think that I've learned just as much, if not more, from all the adults on this call. I think that I've become a lot more knowledgeable about like how like difficult it really is to make changes. Someone who's just like, we can do everything. It's been helpful to have someone there to like see like all the steps that go into it, and I can really see like a lot of the bigger picture now. And I think that like it's a really great thing that we can all learn from each other in different ways.
Definitely. Thank you. Nora?
One of the hardest things I think for me in the beginning was realizing that everybody comes to the table with like a totally different background and experience and opinion on how they see DEI. And I guess Leah, she's so cute. Sorry. I think I realized that, everybody has a different background and a different experience in how they see DEI. And I think maybe I wasn't necessarily closed-minded, but I definitely hung out with a group of people that shared the same ideas as me and a group of students the same age. So it was interesting to see that everybody has a different perspective and definitely humbling for my worldview.
Humbling is a great word. I really, thank you. Anyone else? What else has been hard about this? We'll go Elizabeth and then Nicole.
I think, one of the things that's been great and difficult about this, the work on this committee has been to learn, to not react right away to people's ideas that might be different from your own, but to like listen to them and then sit with them and watch the discussion go on and then kind of like watch your reaction. And, so it's great to learn that skill really of being able to listen and wait and think and, keep your own reaction in check. I think this committee is just so great in the sense that we're like so many different people and we do that, listen to one another. We are trying, I think, to model being democratic in terms of, Mike Laster and Marie Wiles are not running this meeting, and so everybody has an equal voice here. And so I think it's exciting and it's, it can be a kind of a model for better communication and empathy.
Thank you. Nicole and then Kelly.
I pretty much wanted to echo a lot of what Elizabeth said. This committee has, for me, in growing, put out there that there's a lot I don't know and still never know, but gets me excited to learn. And I think some of the struggles that's most challenging for me is that my appetite has been whetted for this and wanting to know, and then being around people kind of as Nora identified. I hang out with a lot of people that are similar in culture as myself, and having people that I don't want to say that having people that don't want to learn, I don't understand it. I guess that's really, it's hard for me. So talk about keeping your face about when you're talking to people and something I definitely have learned, but it really still is a struggle when you come across people that you thought would want to learn too, that just aren't there yet.
Thank you. Yeah. I hear that about, yeah, the face. Kelly, and then Kim.
Oh, don't spill it. One of my challenges is my daughter at the moment. However, I think I said this last time when we kind of did a regroup, is like feeling that we're moving at such a snail's pace. Like I want to do something. I want to. Here you go. My goodness. Hold on, baby. Then and second is I felt when we first started this and continually in the beginning, like I feel like I want to be a leader. Like I want to be a leader in this, and that's kind of my nature at the moment. But I learned real quick to really be quiet and listen, and I have been for a while, and I've learned so much. So that's not super natural to me a lot of times. So I've learned, that's been a challenge a little bit for me, but I'm learning, and I've learned so much, and my daughter won't let me continue, but I appreciate this group so much, and I appreciate all the voices that we have here. It's great.
Thank you. Kim?
Yep. I mean, I was late to the game with this group, so I joined a little later. Very glad that I was able to. People who know me know I'm a talker. And so the hardest part of this was just sitting back and listening. And it actually ended up being a gift most of the time, because I kind of learned more how to listen to learn and not to answer. And I ended up hearing just amazing stories and viewpoints from different people. But one thing through this that impressed me unbelievably and kind of gives me hope, actually, is just hearing our students. Like the fact that our students are so kind of ahead of the game, and they're vocal, and they found their voice, and they're letting us know like that it gives me hope that this is something that's going to actually continue and thrive in the district. So
Totally agree. And thank you. Seema?
Something that Kelly said reminded me of, this is a challenge that's like ongoing. I don't think there's a solution, but it's something I think about a lot, is the idea of the pace at what we move, or which we move about this work, and having to be open to moving at a slower pace than maybe that I'd want to, and still having to feel like to justify the work, but then also at the same time knowing that there's marginalized kids who feel like, or families who've been waiting for so long, and how much longer do they have to wait for this work to be validated or moved ahead, et cetera. So it's just a balance of thinking about those groups and those kids, and putting them first, but then also thinking, we have to, try and include everybody in this, and have to move at the pace at which people feel comfortable. So that is just, the nature of, I guess, this type of work. So that's just something I think about and struggle with.
Thank you. And I certainly appreciate that too. I think that kind of blends into the second to last question set that I have for the group today. On the following page 200, the questions are related to, how we feel about the plan. I'm going to change it. I'll leave the word plan in there just while I put it in the chat, but I want us to think about it instead about our work with the committee, future things we have going forward as this year's winding down, reflections on some of the work that's begun in all the different subcommittees and where that's going. So the 3 points of this question, it's what excites you about your plan, what makes you nervous, what do you need to do or learn next to ensure the success of your plan. And so I'll drop that in the chat just so folks can see it. But we can think about it again. If we want to substitute plan for this committee or for subcommittee, then feel free to do that. But that's just the last thing I wanted for us, or second to last thing for us to frame our thinking on. Nora?
I'll start by saying I know this isn't like committee related necessarily, I guess, but I'm really excited for the rally. I am looking forward to seeing it, all of our hard work come together, and listening to all my peers talk and having new speakers and new voices. And I'll share that I was a little nervous this year about the rally, I guess, because I guess I feel like through this committee, I've learned that I'm more in a place right now to do listening rather than speaking. And I think yes, plug it, Maxine. I realized that I was nervous to be speaking in a space in front of a lot of people, but I think it's so worth it in the end because every single voice matters and brings the rally together and makes it so important. And I'm really excited for that. It's a great end of the year kind of thing.
Thank you. Joe?
I'm really excited that we're moving closer and closer to engaging in an equity audit. I think it's going to be very fruitful. I'm very excited about it. It also makes me nervous because anytime you do that, though, there's the chance that you'll do it in a way that unfortunately alienates instead of engages. That you can put your best foot forward and you can still stub your toe and make mistakes. And I do get nervous about that. And I think it's that we need to just study our process for how we're going to do it. And you just, at some point, it's doing the best you can and cross your fingers and you know, you do it.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind of vulnerability with that. Chris?
I think it's what people were talking about earlier, dispelling misconceptions about what DEI is. I think it makes me nervous when I see really inaccurate depictions or conceptions about DEI being discussed. And then how do we as a group go forward and help people understand? Because I think if people understood more what the purpose of this was, they would feel less attacked by it. They would feel less threatened and more like this is an invitation to be more unified and be more one whole group as opposed to, you know, what are those people doing and what are these people doing and how am I protecting my people? So that's what makes me very nervous is that I see some incredibly inaccurate depictions of DEI, not just in our community, but
I think we missed the tail end of that, or is that just me? Oh, okay.
I think you were cutting out a little bit.
yeah, my district Chromebook is terrible on my personal internet here. I just reiterated that the DEI, it's not just Guilderland. This is a larger picture concern and nervousness, but that I think we are, like Seema said, I'm really excited that we are doing this work in advance of where I think other groups are going to take it. So how can we help people understand what this is?
Yes, thank you. Leah?
So I'm excited about the research committee's evolution from what I think started as kind of a almost punitive in nature survey to how can we help survey, and kind of the journey we went on when a member of the faculty joined our team and helped us see things in a different way and how to approach it differently. I'm excited to hopefully still keep working on it even when I roll off of the committee, because I really saw it as a way to support teachers who've done a ton for our kids in the last 2 years. And my nervousness really is, I do have nervousness that we're just asking a lot of the educators through a tough time of the pandemic, and I'm nervous about burnout and, you know, asking educators to take on one more societal woe, but I really want to help and help support them in doing this.
Thank you. And I think that point is pretty well received. Dr. Wiles?
I think I'm only going to respond to the first part of your three-part question. The
Oh, you're muted.
I'm trying to discern if what I've noticed around the efficacy of student voice is something I've just noticed or if it really has grown. And I'm reflecting back to the anti-hate rally last June. But since that time, I can think of 3 other student groups who have really courageously and thoughtfully come forward with topics that are of interest to them that they want the district to act on. So the Muslim Student Association, who did a ton of work to advocate for a look at our calendar. And then we have the March for Our Lives group, who have come forward asking the district to think about passing a resolution around gun safety. And then recently, I had 3 ninth grade students make an appointment to see me to advocate for additional social emotional supports in the high school. And I can't, in my 30-something years doing this work, remember that many occasions when students have come forward with really important topics, not, we need to keep chocolate milk in the cafeteria kinds of things, that are really central to the issues and concerns that they care about. And I don't know if I'm just noticing more or if it is more, but it brings me such great hope for what's next in our future. That students are willing to speak up for what really matters to them. They don't wait for the grown-ups to tell them what really matters to them. And that's all risky. So I guess that's what makes me nervous. But I couldn't be more proud of the courage that takes to do that. And it's, this has been one of the most difficult years that I can remember in my career, but it's also been one of the best for that very reason.
Thank you. Mike Laster?
I love the student voice increase, and I have the same question that Dr. Wiles has. Was it always there, or is it just amplified, right? But I want to go back to something that Leah said. I think, Leah, you're the one who said it, because I'm always worried about adding more things to teachers' plates, right? So, but I also think that the pandemic, coming off of the pandemic, allows us as a school system and public education in general to think about, well, what was on the plate before the pandemic that can go off, right? So the concept of de-implementation. What are some things that were on our teachers' plates that may not have been as important as we thought they were? And how can we substitute, how can we take off some of that and then add some of this content, add some of this mindset shift to that work? So one of the things that I'm interested in is, as we get back to whatever normal is going to look like, what are the things that we did back in 2018, 19, 20 that we may not have to do anymore? And how can our teachers sort of use this opportunity that they have probably once in a lifetime in their career, because frankly, I don't want to deal with another pandemic. How can we use this opportunity to really think about what matters? I'll give you an example. Like, one of the things that we're trying to pull together, and I think it's going to come to fruition, is we're working with the St. Peter's Crime and Victims Unit to bring an assembly to our 8th graders at the end of this school year in regards to tolerance, in regards to their behaviors with one another, in regards to diversity. This is it's a presentation called Project Teamwork. It's been vetted and done in lots of different organizations, not only school organizations, but college organizations. So we've been working with these individuals to see if we can deliver that to our 8th graders. So as they leave FMS, can we give them some positive messaging? Can we give them some skill sets to be more successful at the high school level and more tolerant, more acceptable of the differences among their student body, of the things that they're going to see at the high school that they may not have seen over the last 2.5 years that we've had them either in school or in a hybrid model or online. So if that works, that's something that I think we'd be looking at implementing on an annual basis here at FMS. Now that involves partnering with an outside agency, that involves some compromise with our teachers, but it also replaces some things that we've done before, but we may not need to do anymore. So those are all the things that are on my mind. But to your point, I do think we need to make sure that this is not an additional burden for our teachers or an additional task for our teachers, because that's not something that I would be a proponent of.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that annual basis and the idea of shifting what's on the plate, and trying to do something that, as far as I see, would in the long term actually be beneficial for just all members of our school community. That, like, the more we do this work, I think the dividends are going to continue to pay themselves forward again and again and again. And it will be reflected in classroom environments and progressive learning throughout the year. So I think that this is, I see it as an investment in kids, really. It's probably the best way to put it. So the very last thing I wanted to put forward to the group for tonight is, are there any sections or any topics that were covered in this book that you wanted to share thoughts about, but that weren't asked, or you didn't feel like you had a chance to express your thoughts on it? Nora?
I will just say that this book definitely came from more of an administrator perspective than it did from like a student perspective. So there were some points where I feel like it was a little less based on the experience of like a student or someone experiencing these actions through the school system rather than someone sort of watching them, I guess I'd say.
Noted. Thank you for articulating that. That is a very, very fair point. The vantage point of the book. Joe, you got something? Go ahead.
Pose it one more time to the group.
In essence, I'm asking, is there anything that you feel that like it was unasked in this book? That's something that you want to share that you think wasn't touched on enough, or that you want to revisit? I just wanted to make sure that no one feels like there's anything left unsaid, because this is the conclusion of our time with this book. As confident as I am in the ability to leave sticky notes in places, I think there's also a good chance that I missed something. But if not, I was referring to the book. Yes. Yes. Yeah, overall, I think that this was a very good book, but it is a good point that it's more adult centered in terms of action steps versus the student experience. So I think, given that we just recently had a meeting and that I can't tell, is the sun? Oh, the sun's still a little bit out. It's setting. I see no problem with us ending a little bit early for tonight, unless someone has a strong objection to that. If so, I have no problem monologuing for 30 minutes. But if we'd rather avoid that, I'll be waiting on a motion to adjourn. And just thank everyone for your progression with everything with this book. Nora? And everyone's a second. Oh, Nicole? All right, perfect. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your night.
See you at the rally.
See you at the rally.